And the West's hypocrisy on Pakistan has not changed either. One moment, they want to grandstand on fighting terrorism. Another, they want to write glowing obituaries on a man who mastered using terrorism as a state policy. Western powers saw Musharraf as an ally, a friend who helped them achieve their goals. Perhaps no Pakistani leader has earned America's friendship more than Pervez Musharraf. They considered Pakistan a strategic partner in their war on terror. Musharraf became a sensation in the West for two reasons mostly. He was a whiskey-sipping, cigar-smoking Muslim. That's not something a lot of Muslims do. Alcohol, you would know, is banned in Islam. It's considered haram. So is keeping dogs as pets. But Musharraf loved his dogs. Here was a man that defied the Muslim stereotype. And the West loved it. The Americans felt an instant connect with him, the kind they hadn't felt with any previous Pakistani leader. So what if Musharraf had illegally come to power? So what if he was a dictator? This man oversaw extrajudicial killings, enforced disappearances, illegal detentions, custodial deaths, torture, but none of it mattered. As long as Musharraf did what the US government asked of him, all his crimes were to be ignored. Now Musharraf is dead, but a sense of admiration for him still lingers in the West, and it shows in their obituaries. We start with the BBC. I have some quotes. India regarded Musharraf as the architect of the 1999 conflict in Kargil and suspected Pakistan's army of involvement in the hijack of an Indian Airlines plane in Afghanistan the same year. Do you see the problem here? The BBC says that India thought of Musharraf as the architect of the war. What happened to facts? Musharraf was the architect of the war. There are no two ways about it. It's a fact that the BBC seems too shy to admit. The Guardian was a bit more forthcoming. This is what they said. Before emerging as the moderate face of Pakistan in the wake of the 9/11 attacks, Musharraf was best known for his hostility to India and as the architect of Pakistan's disastrous military adventure in Kargil in May 1999. Then they almost seemed to justify his actions. Listen to what follows. Musharraf recalled his earliest memories were of the killing and displacement of thousands of Muslims following the partition of the Indian subcontinent. Thousands of Muslims, not Sikhs, not Hindus, who also perished during partition. But it's the New York Times that takes the cake, really. It portrayed Musharraf as a paragon of peace. Let me quote from what they said. Mr. Musharraf also set out to find a peaceful solution to the Kashmir dispute. He met several times with Indian leaders and agreed with them on measures to reduce tensions. In 2004, before a thrilled television audience of several hundred million, the two countries played their first cricket match in 15 years. Well, here's some context for NYT. Musharraf's military campaign in Kargil was an embarrassing failure. He had no choice but to behave himself, especially when dealing with India. It was the then Indian Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee who extended an olive branch. The West sees Musharraf from a very flawed prism. He was not an ally in the war on terror as a matter of principle. He was there because Washington had a gun to his head. He had no choice. Plus, supporting America came with a lot of rewards. Musharraf got direct access to the White House and Pakistan got a lot of aid, approximately $1 billion every year, $1 billion, mostly military aid. Musharraf would do anything to make sure that continued, and he did. In 2002, he proposed a vision for Pakistan. He called for Pakistan to be made a dynamic Islamic state, one in which religion guided private morality but not public policy. Pakistan's fundamentalists were outraged. They saw Musharraf as America's puppet controlled by President George Bush. They started calling him Busharraf. More than anything else, Musharraf is remembered for the help that he gave to Washington, D.C. Why are we talking about it today? Because this is symptomatic of the problem. It reflects in the Western media's discourse to this very day. It also shows in the West's hypocrisy on fighting terrorism. They've been arming one set of terrorists to fight another, and their press continues to legitimize this policy.